study chronologically, is there a value to be gained with understanding how maybe God moves in certain ways?
That's a great question. I think there is. God's concerned early on with creating and with the cultivation of civilizations, with the formation of nations, dealing with the early acts of sin, and kind of setting the stage for the reason for the Ten Commandments. Left to ourselves, we're way off. We're awash. So he says, you need some guidelines. And he never gave us the commandments to know how to be saved. He gave us the commandments to keep from destroying ourselves. Mm-hmm. Every time God gives a command, even though most folks don't know this, it's for our good. It's to help us survive. It's never to club you because you stepped out of line or frighten you with some punishment issue. He's saying, don't use my name in vain. If you do, such and such will happen. Honor your father and your mother. If you do, you'll live longer, etc. Mm-hmm. So all of these things he was setting in place in the early part of the Bible. Mm-hmm. Now, when you get into the Bible and you get into the flow of history, it's kind of the unfolding of his wonderful story that leads ultimately to Christ.
Yeah, and I think that's what I was hitting upon, is the progression.
Right.
If some of us think in terms of story.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like a rooftop. All this Old Testament is pointing toward the great climax, which is the coming of Jesus, his life, his ministry, his death, his resurrection. And then from there on, everything looks back on that with a view toward what he did and said. Old Testament looks ahead toward it. The New Testament looks back on it. Isn't that helpful?
And it really is, because I was going to say sometimes in our devotions or in our Bible study, we camp a lot in the New Testament, and for good reason. We understand about Christ and his ministry.
Sure.
But sometimes we think in terms of, we have faulty thinking and thinking the Old Testament is not really applicable, or it doesn't have as much meaning.
I run into that
faulty,
all
right?
the time. All the time. When I did that series on Job, I had some people say early on, "Oh, brother, this is going to be study and boredom." But you know what? I've gotten probably more response regarding my study in Job than any other series. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
This ancient book written by a guy who lost everything, telling the story of the role of suffering in his life. Man, you can't do justice to suffering without addressing Job.